They had 17 hours to escape. Most of them didn't move. On August 24, 79 AD, Mount Vesuvius began erupting at 1 p.m. The pyroclastic surge that killed everyone didn't hit until 6:30 a.m. the next morning. 17 full hours. Yet archaeologists found 1,150 bodies inside the city walls. People frozen in their homes, clutching jewelry, hiding in locked rooms. Why didn't they run? The answer is darker than you think. Because the volcano gave them every warning. Earth tremors for days. A massive explosion visible for 100 miles. A column of ash 20 miles high. And still, thousands stayed. Some waited for the ash to stop. Some went back for their valuables. Some simply didn't believe it could get worse. They were wrong. What happened in those final 25 hours reveals something disturbing about human nature. And the forensic evidence from the victims tells us exactly how long each person survived. Minute by minute. Hour by hour. This is the complete timeline nobody talks about. Noon. August 24th. A normal day. Pompeii had 11,000 residents. The city was thriving. Bakeries were open. The forum was crowded. Nobody knew they had 13 hours left. But the mountain had been warning them for 16 years. In 63 AD, a massive earthquake destroyed half the city. Tremors continued for years. Most people rebuilt anyway. Pompeii was too valuable to abandon. It sat on major trade routes. The soil was incredibly fertile from previous eruptions. Rich Romans owned villas here. By 79 AD, the warning signs were everywhere. Wells were drying up. Small earthquakes rattled windows daily. Springs stopped flowing. Naturalist Pliny the Elder later documented sulfur smells in the air. But Romans didn't understand volcanoes. The word didn't even exist yet. They thought Vesuvius was just a mountain. It had been dormant for 800 years. No living person had seen it erupt. So when the ground shook that morning, people ignored it. They'd felt tremors before. At 1 p.m., everything changed. A massive explosion ripped through Vesuvius. The sound reached Rome, 140 miles away. A column of pumice and ash shot 20 miles into the sky. It was visible from 3 regions. Inside Pompeii, people looked up and saw darkness approaching. But here's what nobody expected. The eruption column was so tall it blocked out the sun. Within 30 minutes, Pompeii was in complete darkness. At 1 p.m. in August. Imagine that. Total blackness at midday. 1:30 p.m. Hot pumice began falling from the sky. Small rocks at first. The size of walnuts. Then bigger. Fist-sized chunks. Then even larger. Each piece was 160 degrees Fahrenheit. Hot enough to burn skin on contact. The pumice fell at a rate of 6 inches per hour. People ran inside. They thought they'd wait it out. Roofs started collapsing under the weight. By 5 p.m., pumice covered the streets 3 feet deep. Walking outside became impossible. Some families climbed to second floors. Others huddled in ground floor rooms. Archaeologists found a group of 54 people in a single house. They'd locked the door. Sealed the windows. They suffocated together as volcanic gas seeped through cracks. But here's what nobody realized. The pumice wasn't the real danger. At 8 p.m., the eruption entered a new phase. The column became unstable. It started collapsing. The first pyroclastic surge hit Herculaneum, 7 miles away. Temperature, 752 degrees Fahrenheit. Speed, 100 miles per hour. It killed everyone instantly. Pompeii didn't know yet. They were still dealing with pumice. Midnight arrived. The city was buried under 9 feet of volcanic rock. Roofs were collapsing everywhere. People were trapped in their homes. Some tried digging through the pumice. The evidence shows tunneling attempts. People clawing through stone to reach the street. At 1 a.m., the second pyroclastic surge hit. It didn't reach Pompeii. Just Herculaneum again. Survivors in Pompeii thought the worst was over. The pumice had slowed. Some people tried to evacuate. Archaeologists found bodies on the roads, buried under 12 feet of rock. They didn't make it far. Dawn approached. August 25th. 6:30 a.m. The final surge was building. And this one would reach Pompeii. 6:30 a.m. The seventh pyroclastic surge left Vesuvius. It was different from the others. Denser. Faster. Hotter. It hit Pompeii at 180 miles per hour. The temperature was 570 degrees Fahrenheit. Death was instantaneous. But here's the disturbing part. Modern forensic analysis of the bodies reveals exactly how people died. Their brains boiled inside their skulls. The extreme heat vaporized fluids instantly. Skulls exploded from internal pressure. Archaeologists found skull fragments mixed with volcanic ash. Victims' muscles contracted so violently their bones fractured. Bodies were frozen in protective positions. Parents covering children. People clutching doorways. One man was found with his hands covering his face. The heat was so intense it turned his brain into glass. Literal glass. Scientists found preserved brain tissue in 2020. Vitrified by temperatures exceeding 968 degrees Fahrenheit. The entire city died in 15 minutes. 2,000 people still inside. But here's what haunts researchers. The positioning of the body shows many people were still awake. Still moving. Still trying to survive at 6:30 a.m. After 17 hours of eruption. They'd survived the pumice. The toxic gas. The collapsed buildings. They were so close to sunrise. So close to potentially escaping. The pyroclastic surge moved at 180 miles per hour. Even if you saw it coming, you couldn't outrun it. One villa shows a family gathered around a table. They were eating breakfast. Archaeologists found bread in an oven. Still preserved. They died mid-meal. Another house contained a chained guard dog. Still attached to the wall. It had climbed higher and higher as pumice filled the room. Eventually it ran out of chain length. The body was found suspended. Strangled by its own collar. The most famous victim is the Garden of the Fugitives. 13 people died together trying to escape. Their casts show exact positions. A mother cradling her child. A man face down. Arms covering his head. They were 65 feet from the city gate. If they'd left at 1 p.m., they would have made it. Vesuvius is still active. 3 million people now live within the danger zone. Naples sits 5 miles from the crater. It's Europe's most dangerous volcano. The Italian government has evacuation plans for 700,000 people. The plan allows 72 hours to evacuate. Studies show it would take 168 hours. The same psychology that killed Pompeii's residents exists today. When evacuations are called, 40% of people refuse to leave. They wait to see if it gets worse. They go back for belongings. They don't believe it will happen to them. Vesuvius last erupted in 1944. It's the longest quiet period in 500 years. Volcanologists say an eruption is overdue. When it comes, will people leave in time? Pompeii's timeline proves one thing. Disasters give warnings. Survival requires believing them. Those 1,150 bodies weren't victims of bad luck. They were victims of hesitation. Of normalcy bias. Of thinking they had more time. They had 17 hours. It wasn't enough because they didn't use it. If a story like this kept you here, subscribe. Every day we drop another timeline nobody talks about. And here's a question nobody asks. What happened to the Pompeii survivors who did escape? Where did 9,000 people disappear to, and why is there almost no record of them? Subscribe for a new dark truth every day.